Hello and welcome to another fun-filled edition of Adam's Music Box, where it was on this week in 1960. 1960 in 90 That's an interesting faux pas, actually. It was on this week in 1996 that a movement it's one of those days, that a movie about rock and roll in the mid 60s came out, and it sort of came out of nowhere. It wasn't as if there was some sort of mid 60s rock and roll revival going on, not musically and not culturally. Opening a window back there, you can see it's very professional around these parts. So it came out of nowhere, but because it was written, directed, and starring Tom Hanks, it immediately got people's attention. This was at the height of Forrest Gump and Apollo 13, and, between sitting on a bench and going into space, Tom Hanks could really do it all at the time. Now, the movie is very cornball. It is as corny as can be. And I don't think it got a lot of success because of that. All of that said, it was a very interesting film because it really did its best to recreate the kind of atmosphere of a young rock and roll industry, because the industry, in terms of rock and roll, was very young in the mid 60s. And it portrayed that with comparative accuracy on a human level. And the idea of, these kids that just wanted to play music, all from the same area, but with very different aspirations and very different personalities. It was kind of like an overly earnest Spinal Tap, but just as there was maybe too much reality in Spinal Tap, there was some reality in this film that was obviously supposed to be more dramatic than comedic, but it obviously had its moments of both. But I always really liked the film because it was really told from the musician's perspective, and not a lot of films, especially at the time, did so. And I don't really want to say it's a cult classic, but I do think that while a lot of films that didn't do great at the box office in the 90s have sort of been forgotten already, I think this film will actually stick around for a while because it's really one of the few films made on that subject of sort of the instant rise to fame and falling apart of a band cut from this mid 60s rock and roll milieu. And the music was actually really great as well. It was written by the late Adam Schlesinger, who was also part of a band that achieved some hits in the late 90s called The Fountains of Wayne. The title track, for instance, That Thing You Do, derivative, sure, but it's really catchy. It's got a great riff, a good arrangement, and some of the other songs that they wrote for the film, they sounded convincingly realistic. And I thought that that helped a lot as well. And some of the settings were interesting. It was filmed inside the Ambassador Hotel, which obviously was in the news later in the 60s for all the wrong reasons, but just very interesting stuff. So if you're in the mood for something corny, but that is music centric and told from the perspective of musicians, I would definitely put on this film. You may just end up liking it. As always, like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Take care.